Hey guys, it's the WalterFootball.com After Dark show for August 10th, 2023. We're doing another 2023 fantasy football mock draft. This one is 12-team standard format. We just got the room full. And we're joined by Kenny Ortiz from the capisfake.com, the vice president. Kenny, how are you?
Oh, bro, I'm just hanging out, drinking some almond milk tonight.
Almond
does
milk.
the body good.
Does it? I heard otherwise. I heard it's like misleading and it's not very good for you.
I actually don't know what I'm talking about. I have no medical knowledge. So
I heard like everyone's drink. Oh no, I think it's bad for the environment. That's what it is. I heard there's like something bad about it, but I don't know.
Care about the environment though. Don't tweet me at me though.
Oh yeah, I don't either. I don't care either. Yeah, we go brown here at Walter Football. So I am drafting. Drafting number 2. Kenny's drafting number 11. Once again, this is standard scoring. We have about 15 seconds left until this draft begins. And our friend Bodyburner from Monday is actually in this as well. He's drafting number 4. And I should say Wild Sex with Wald is number 5. And is there any other type of sex with Wald? I don't think so. So yeah, we're about to start now. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would mean a lot if you want to help support the show. Looks like I'm on the clock. I'm just tweeting out that we are streaming, which I usually forget to do, but I remember tonight. So, Kenny, he's just the guy. Is that what you say? I don't know.
He's just the guy. That's right.
Okay. Justin Jefferson went number 1. So it's interesting between running back and receiver. I'm going to go running back and see how my draft goes. I think you can take Jamar Chase there. I think you can also make a case for Nick Chubb. I love Nick Chubb a lot. But I'm going to go with McCaffrey, and I just want to see how my team looks. What do you think about the number 2 pick? What would you have done there?
In a standard league, I'm probably taking Nick Chubb there.
Okay.
It's funny, the ADP, I've been looking at ADP, and it just seems like there's a lot of people, like wide receivers, there's almost no value at the top of the draft. Wide receivers are dominating the first round. Has there ever been a time that's happened? Have you ever seen that before?
No, I was talking about it with Bodyburner on Monday, actually, where like I distinctly remember leagues where it was 10 running backs in the first round, and then you would have like Marvin Harrison or Randy Moss, and then you'd have Peyton Manning. Like that's how first rounds would go. And like now you have we did a draft. I did a draft last night where there was 5 running backs, 6 receivers, and a tight end in the first round. So like there's more receivers than running backs. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I've never seen what we're seeing this year. At any time in my I've been doing fantasy football since 1995. My first fantasy pick ever was Steve Young, by the way. Shout out. But I've never seen at any point in fantasy history where wide receivers are dominating the top 15, top 16 picks of drafts, the way we're seeing an ADP this summer. I wonder if that'll shift a bit. People who are drafting this early are more savvy people. People who are more likely to maybe try to do something different. I wonder if when you get to home leagues, when people start drafting that are a little more normal, regular peeps, does the ADP shift a little bit because people are drafting running? I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, we've never seen it like this early, so I don't know. I feel like maybe it shifts a little bit, but I think for the most part, it's probably going to stay the same. Do you have any idea why this phenomenon has occurred? I have some idea, but maybe your answer is different.
Yeah, I think the general thing is the top wide receivers. There's 2 things. I'm gonna queue up my pick here. Make sure I don't lose my pick here. But I can't believe I'm gonna draft one of these guys. Let me just double check, make sure. Yep. Okay. I was looking at my rankings, and we got to get the queue up here. I think for me, I think the thing is there's 2 things happening. One is running backs feel there's more question marks on running backs than ever before, in terms of guys coming off injury, guys having multiple running backs in the backfield. And fantasy football is becoming is more random than ever. There's more luck involved than I've ever seen in fantasy, in my experience at least. I'm going to draft my player. I'm going to go Saquon Barkley here.
Nice.
And Saquon Barkley is, in my top 3. So if I had the 3rd pick, I'm probably taking Barkley. For him to go 11 is, it's just unbelievable to me. So I think part of it is the, that's the question. So here now I got to go, do I go wide receiver or do I go running back? I think I just see no value in any of these picks, to be honest. I think there's no value in this spot, at least in my opinion. And so I've been wrestling through who do you take? But has Tony Pollard already gone off the board?
He just went.
Okay, I missed him there. Okay. So I think Tony Pollard would have been the guy that I would have really liked in this spot right here. And so I guess I'll go wide receiver here. I'm going to go Stephon Diggs. But I don't love this particular spot. I chose the draft here because I'm not loving it. The more running back committees is a part of it. I also think there's a significant. I feel like with wide receivers, there's sort of the sense of like there's tier 1, and you got about 7 or 8 guys in that tier, and then there's like tier 3, and pretty much like wide receivers from like 9 to like 30 are like almost all the same. Mm-hmm. The 13th best receiver on your list is not that much better than your 27th, because fantasy football is, there's so much passing, there's so much more randomness that I think the top receivers feel much safer. There feels like such a drop off, and I think that's inspiring people. I've actually think that's been the case for a few years now, but I think people are starting to realize that. It's not enough to inspire me to go heavy receiver early in the draft. But I understand why people are doing it. So that's my speculation.
I think you're pretty much right with what you said. I'd like to. It kind of like reminds me of like a guy who's been rejected by a girl too many times. Where like these running backs have failed so frequently over the years, and I feel like people have just gotten scorned by them, and just like. It's just like bad feelings. Like these guys get hurt a lot. They underperform. They like to look at Todd Gurley. He just like disappears in a flash. Like people spend early round picks on these running backs and they get burned every time. And it's like at some point you're like I'm not gonna go in the dating pool. I'm just gonna chill with my friends for a while. And like that's what I think this kind of is. It's like people were just tired of drafting busts early. But you kind of have to go swing for the fences. I was going to take Garrett Wilson here, by the way. It's a really good pick by Body Burner. Not a surprise. As I've mentioned, Body Burner is frequently near the top. I was also going to look at Jalen Waddle as well. So these guys are taking all my picks. So I kind of want to go running back receiver here. I don't want to go 2 running backs again. And so ideally, like I would take this guy in the 3rd round, but like I'm not going to take a 3 running back, so I'm just going to go with him now. And so Jahmyr Gibbs is my pick. I know like some people might be like, wait, what about David Montgomery taking all the carries or at the goal line at least? And maybe he gets like carries at the goal line, but Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get so many touches in that offense. Detroit loves him. They took him number 12 for a reason. He was their first pick. Like he's not like he's a 2nd round pick or anything. Like he is going to be the guy there. Montgomery is just the insurance backup. And yeah, sure, maybe he gets goal line carries, but Gibbs is going to have a monster year, I think. And I'm sure you don't like Montgomery very much, right?
I'm not a Montgomery fan, no.
Yep. So I just wanted to make sure things didn't change or anything. You never know. I mean, people develop different tastes,
That's right.
All right, I'm up again. So again, like ideally Gibbs here in the 2nd round or in the 3rd round, but I like the couple receivers, and this number 1 guy took a receiver. So I'm going to take Chris Olave. He was great last year, and he's definitely the number 1 receiver going into the season. And, now he gets an upgrade. Like he was catching passes from Andy Dalton for most of the season. Now he's going to have Derek Carr. And I'm not a huge Derek Carr fan, but like he's definitely better than Andy Dalton. So I like Olave. What do you think about Gibbs and Olave?
I'm not as big a fan of Gibbs as you are. It seems. I don't know where I have him ranked. I can't remember. I don't have him that high. There's a couple guys on the board I think I have ahead of him. I just am not sure I'm yet to fully love the Detroit Lions offense. And I think I generally tend to be lower on rookies than everyone else. This is my general position. I'm surely
General
rookies
position.
can. What was that?
That's the general position. Go ahead.
So my general perspective. So I tend to not. I don't think they're bad. I like Olave a lot there. I think he's got a chance to be a. I mean, I think there's a scenario where Olave is a top. Where this time next year Olave is being drafted in the the end of the first round, end of the second, beginning of the second round. I think he's got that kind of potential. He's obviously a very good player and playing for a terrible team last year. So, I also wonder. I like the idea of going running back here though, like where you've got several guys that are going receiver, or receiver running back. I think you're building some depth here at running back in a position that, again, as we've said, I feel like we say this every year, every summer. It's the hardest position to fill. It's the hardest position to backfill when you have injuries. You need depth at the running back position. So I like that.
Yeah. We were saying before that running backs are so volatile and they have like high bust upside, or high bust like risk and everything, but you still have to take them. You have to go for the fences. Like if you just load up on receivers early, like your team is just not going to be, it's not going to have great potential. Like you might be solid and like might make the playoffs. But your team is not going to be one of the top teams, and like you're probably not going to get one of those buys that you need to one of the top 2 seeds to get a buy into the second round. So I think that like my goal is, I'm not going to push anything. Like if the value's not there, I'm going to try a different strategy. But my goal is to come away with 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds. Whereas like everyone else is drafting receivers in their first 3 rounds. I want to go more upside. And if that ruins my team because McCaffrey and Gibbs both get hurt, then so be it. But if they both hit, then I have a foundation to win the championship.
Right.
Yeah. So
there are several guys here that have gone that I thought would be available at this point. At this point now, I'm realizing, okay, I would rather have gone running back rather than going Stephon Diggs in that second spot. But that's okay. That's why we do mock drafts. I was under the impression that there was going to be several guys still. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go Devontae Smith, who I think has a potential to become the Eagles' number 1 receiver coming out of this year. I think he has that kind of potential. And there are several running backs that I like in rounds 4, 5, and 6. So I'm okay with going receiver here because there's only a handful more receivers that I like. And so I'm going to have to probably reach a little bit for a running back here now around 4 because the running backs I like might not be there. So this kind of shows me where I should have probably gone. But that's okay. This is why we do mock drafts, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. You gotta. I think it's important to to learn proper ADPs and whatnot. So, let me see. Are you you're gonna be up soon? So you have really just went. So you said you wanted you wish you went running back in the second round. Who would you have taken there at 202?
Yeah, probably Josh Jacobs would have been the guy I would have considered in that spot. So I thought maybe Tony Pollard would have lasted to me, but he didn't. And so now I'm feeling kind of perplexed, right? And going, man, I'm not sure. Who do I go here? I think the guy that I like is the best player on the board. I really like is a receiver. And I like some of the running backs here. So I'm going to do something that I probably would not recommend in a real draft, but I'm going to just do it for funsies to see how my team turns out. Okay. So I'm going to go Deebo Samuel here. Is my 3rd running back. And so, if I've got a 3rd receiver, if I got a receiver here or a flex, and if I'm in a league where it's just 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers and no flex, I would not have made this decision. Mm-hmm. But if I've got a flex spot or a 3rd receiver spot, then I can start all 3 of these guys. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I really like some of the running backs in the next couple of rounds. There's 3 guys I really like, and I think at least 2 of them will make it back to me. So I'm going to roll the dice a little bit.
Yeah, the running backs still available are pretty sketchy. There's like one I think that is above the rest, but even he has high risk. And I know all running backs have high risk, but still, like, he has higher risks than most running backs. So yeah, it's not a good spot. I would still recommend going running backs early, like people doing that. Otherwise, I think that might hurt them this year. Dylan says, as Kenny said last year, fantasy football isn't hard. I like good players to score touchdowns.
I said that.
I don't remember you saying that, but I mean, why not? Like, it makes sense. And Dylan also saying, did you see the video of Montgomery fumbling today? He's so garbage.
No.
I did not. I was I'd like kind of a crazy busy day. Like, I didn't really get a chance to do much today. So I'll have to check it out. By the way, Josh Allen and Mahomes just went. As I've said so many times, I would pass on these quarterbacks. Although, like, in the fourth round, it's not too bad. You could maybe make the case that there's some value there. I thought that at 502, if one of those were available, I think I would have considered them.
I mean, my whole career in fantasy football, I've always been anti quarterbacks early. I mean, but I can understand the argument. Fifth round still feels a little early to me, but I think I understand the argument of people making, hey, man, some of these positions are such a crapshoot. And so I think you can make an argument that maybe a little earlier this year than previous years might one of the running backs I was considering was Cam Akers. He just went.
That was the guy I mentioned.
Yeah. So J.K. Dobbins and Cam Akers are the two guys. If I did not take Debo there, I might have taken one of those two guys. But really, if I could do this over again, I would rather have taken Josh Jacobs instead of Diggs. Oh, you're on the clock now. So
yeah, I am. I'm going to just make sure this guy's not taken. I'm going to take another receiver. Jerry Jeudy's still available. I love how Jerry Jeudy finished the year last year. He really gelled with Russell Wilson, and now you have Sean Payton there. That offense is just going to be a lot better. I've been taking Jerry Jeudy like in almost every draft I've done, and I picked up some Rainmaker Jerry Jeudy cards. So I'm pretty high on him. I guess I'll ask your opinion on the next pick as well when I do this. But to go back very quickly, Cam Akers, I was mentioning his risk potential. He just has trouble staying healthy, but we saw what he was capable of at the end of last year. Like, he had some great performances. I think he finished the year with 3 100-yard performances in a row. And I expect that offense to be better with Matthew Stafford healthy. Now, he could go down at any moment. He's so brittle at this stage of his career. So yeah, that just adds to the risk. But I think that, in this round, like, there's really not much to like for running backs. I kind of like Dameon Pierce too. I think that's a fine pick. Dobbins, I really don't like, and Pacheco's, I guess, okay. I think I'd take him in the fifth round. But I'm up again, and I'm going to take another receiver. Going to go receiver. So another young receiver that I've been taking is Drake London. I know that Desmond Ridder kind of is not ideal to have as a quarterback, but he was so good last year. They're going to throw more. Ritter's going to have experience. The offensive line's not bad. And I think London's just going to make a big jump in his second year. So what do you think about my Jeudy and London picks?
I like Jerry Jeudy more than London. I guess London didn't stand out. I've not watched as much of the Falcons. I didn't go back and watch a bunch of the Falcons games from last year. He never stuck out to me on tape, watching games. Like, it's fine. And I guess I just don't have confidence in that offense. And so I think I would be. He's obviously was a freak talent coming out of college. Jerry Jeudy, on the other hand, Jerry Jeudy is a technician. He's a fantastic route runner. That offense was broken for so many reasons last year. But if Russell Wilson is right and the offense is right, I think they're going to score a lot of points. I think they're going to score touchdowns. And as apparently I said a year ago, I like good players that score touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy is probably in that category. So, by the way, that's a very wise point. Whoever said that, I mean, if I did say that, I thought it was very smart.
Yeah, just even if you didn't say it, just claim it. I do like what I saw out of London and also Jeudy. But did you know that before the combine in 2022, the Lions, who had the number 1 pick, and they ended up the number 2 pick. They ended up taking Aiden Hutchinson. Before the combine, they were planning on taking Drake London at number 2.
No.
So they ended up going Hutchinson, and then they traded off for Jameson Williams. So things have worked out for them so far. And I go back to what you said before. I love the Lions this year. I actually picked them to go to the Super Bowl.
Wow.
So yeah, I bet them in the Super Bowl 30-1, 33-1, something like that. Yeah, I was all over them last year. I had the over win total. That was my top play. Jacob and I have like been on them a lot. So yeah, there's people listening are like, all right, stop talking about the Lions already. But yeah, a big fan of the Lions. So you're up in a couple picks here. Only 3 quarterbacks. I think that goes to show that I think the people drafting with us are pretty smart. Mark Andrews went 5th round. He's been going 3rd round. So I've been bashing that pick for a while now. But 5th round is fine. I still wouldn't take a tight end that early. I guess you would. I'm pretty sure you would agree. Although you were someone who always took Tony Gonzalez. I remember you would always have Tony Gonzalez on your team, but that was when he was kind of like the Travis Kelce of the
NFL. Yeah, I mean, at the time, it was sort of a unique thing. I was kind of zagging. You know, no one else would take tight ends, and so I used to take them, and we don't have a dominant. But yeah, I think I've kind of lost that appetite at this point in my career in fantasy football. All right, so the running backs that I thought would make it back to me, I thought J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, Isaiah Pacheco. I thought, or Aaron Jones. I thought to myself, hey, at least 1 or 2 of those guys will be here. I was wrong. None of those guys are here. And so so now I'm really in a tough spot, and I've got to take a running back. So now I've got to reach, and not really ideal, but you know, I really like this player. It's a reach, but I've got to need a running back. So I'm going to go Brian Robinson, who I love as a player. I sure wish I'd be drafting him, you know, in round 7, not in round 5. So anyway, that 2nd round pick kind of still haunting me a bit here, where I'm feeling I'm having to reach.
Well, I don't think there was much of a reach when you made the pick. Brian Robinson was the 9th best player available on my board, so I would have considered him on the way back. So I don't think you would have gotten him. Maybe it just goes to show how thin running backs are, but I like Robinson. Like, think about it last year. Like, he was really impressive in the preseason. Then he got shot in the butt. And he came back super quickly, but I think there's a chance that he wasn't 100% like after getting shot, you know, and like there, you know, I feel like he could really have a good year. You're up again.
So this is another spot where you're just feeling like, man, there is some really, really, it's really thin here in this spot. And so I don't love this, but I'm going to go tight end. And I'm going to go George Kittle here. I don't love going tight end in this spot. I think it's a little just too early. I don't want to really be in tight end until really round 7, round 8, you know. But just looking at what's available, you know, I think it's probably my best player available to try to help start my starting lineup here.
I've been a little down on George Kittle because I think it really depends on the offensive line, how it plays, because I've mentioned this a few times. Like, if you look at George Kittle's game log last year, he had a stretch early on where he wasn't doing much. And that was when Trent Williams was injured and they were asking him to block more. He just wasn't running as many routes. Then the Niners lost Mike McGlinchey, the right tackle, this offseason. If his replacement struggles, they might ask him to block more. And if that happens, he's just not going to produce. But if his replacement is good, then he could have another great year. So, like, I think there is some risk built in with Kittle. I'm curious to see how McGlinchey's replacement does.
He was also injured for part of this year. He had a kind of it was a hamstring, I think it was. So I wonder if that played a role. I might have considered Dallas. If I'm in the 7th round, Dallas, I'm thinking about Dallas Goedert. If I'm in the, you know, you know, 8th or 9th round, I think guys like Kyle Pitts and Evan Ingram are on my radar to some extent. Yeah. So again, it's one of those things where, hey, this is why we mock draft. I've been trying to do different things. Okay, if I make this decision, how does my team look? And I'm going, okay, I made the decision to go Stephon Diggs over Josh Jacobs. How does my team look? I don't love it.
I think you definitely have to just play around and like do different scenarios. Kid No Name says Steam is auto picking number 7. I noticed that as well. I think he's the only computer, which is like pretty good. I don't mind drafting with one computer. Saka's saying Olave is your number one though. If you take CMC at 2, things might be looking rough at receiver. Might be looking rough. I think he's meant at receiver with that second pick. I like my receiving core pretty well. I think like Olave, Judy, and London. I don't have like a blue chipper or anything, but I think that's like pretty solid overall. I don't have an issue with that like one bit. All right, so Khalil Herbert went. It's kind of like looking pretty thin here.
Khalil Herbert, by the way.
You love Khalil Herbert?
Oh, I love him. I love Khalil Herbert. Yeah, I thought about him at that spot instead of Kittle, and I thought to myself, he'll definitely last around. I thought for sure he would last, but I guess not.
Yeah, you seem to be saying that a lot. Like, I mean, I think it's because like the people drafting here are like pretty smart. So, man, I don't like this because I have Chris Olave. I really don't like going receiver running back clashes here, but Alvin Kamara is the top player on my board. I've been moving him up a little bit because I think that there's a chance I was wrong about him. Like I was anti Alvin Kamara earlier in the offseason, but he was only suspended 3 games instead of 6. And he's my number 3 running back, so I'm not expecting him to play until week 4 anyway. Like he's probably not going to be in my lineup. And so like there's a chance that he was playing injured last year. He had a horrible season. I think there's a chance he bounces back. And Derek Carr seems to throw more to his running backs than Andy Dalton. So I think there's a chance Kamara bounces back. Curious to hear your thoughts on him because like I said before, I was super anti Kamara before, but now that he was only suspended 3 games, I kind of like him a little bit more now, and I think he's going like pretty late.
I mean, I love Kamara. I watched his last 5 games from last year. I've watched all of them. He looks every bit as good as he's ever been. If the offense was pretty broken last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all comes down to what happens those 3 games he's suspended. I know you're on the clock right now, so I'll shut up for a moment.
Yeah, I was going to take another receiver. There's just not much here at the position. I think there are like a couple guys I like a little bit. I'm gonna take the number 3 receiver I have available because I think he has more upside than the other 2. I'm gonna take Jahan Dotson. Super impressed with him at times last year. He had some big games. Then he got hurt. And then he came back and had a couple of good games. But you got to remember, like he started the year with Carson Wentz. They had Taylor Heineke for a while. And you could say, okay, they only have Sam Howell, but I kind of like Sam Howell. I like them in North Carolina. I had him as my number 1 pick in my mock draft, like way early, like 2 years in advance. So like obviously he went in the 5th round. He slipped because he had a down final year in North Carolina, but I think he's giving me an upgrade over what they had at quarterback last year. And Dotson's going to have more experience now. He's the number 2 receiver in Washington. And I like his potential. And like the other 2 receivers I had ahead of him, they probably have a higher floor, but given that Dotson's my number 4 receiver, I just kind of want to swing for the fences a little bit more because I think he has more upside. What do you think about Dotson?
Yeah, I think same thing. I think I expect Washington to be better. I like Dotson. I don't think he's an amazing player, but you can't help but wonder how much of that is tied to the system he's been in, the offense he's been in. Yeah, I guess I expect players. I think a guy like Terry McLaurin who's been in a disastrous situation there, and he still pops more. So I'm like, I guess I'm always wondering, hey man, you've been in the league a year, and no matter who your quarterback is, like, have I seen you do some stuff that makes you different? And I'm not sure that Dotson has shown me that. Doesn't mean he won't show it. I feel unsure about him at current time.
Yeah, I mean, it's only his 2nd year. I think he has some time to show what he's capable of. And yeah, he was injured. He got injured like kind of early last season. After I think he had like I might be mistaken, but he had like a multi-touchdown game to start the year last season. Mm-hmm. And that was with Carson Wentz, who was just horrible. Like Howell's, I think, definitely going to be better. So we're starting to see some quarterbacks. I was considering either Burrow or Fields, but I think there are just enough quarterbacks to not be concerned. I just don't really care. Right. And you're up in 1 pick.
Right. Deontay Johnson just went. He's the guy that I thought maybe he would be in the spot, but he's not. So that's all right. My running back room feels very thin still. I feel like I'm stretching here draft, but I absolutely love this player. He's my number one valued pick for this season. That's Jaylen Warren for the Steelers. I absolutely love Warren. I have a lot of confidence that he will be the best running back on that team. Najee Harris is my biggest bust for this year.
Really?
I've watched these guys play. I just think Warren's a better player. I don't think Najee Harris is good. I think he's fine. He's just a guy. I think Warren, he's not amazing, but I think he's got some nice mobility, good vision. I think he's a better player. And I genuinely believe that Tomlin is a good enough coach that at some point in the year, he will realize that Jaylen Warren is his best option. And at some point in the season, Warren becomes the primary ball carrier behind what I think would be a somewhat decent offensive line. My only question is, is the quarterback going to be good enough to keep the offense decent enough for Warren to be a touchdown scoring guy? That's my biggest question mark. But and then so second pick here, I'm thinking, okay, I've got tight end, I've got 3 running backs, but man, I've got some serious question marks here. There are some receivers I like here. There's a quarterback that I would seriously consider in this spot, but I still just feel uneasy about running backs. I feel like I'm feeling a little bit obligated to go running back here. Gosh, I really don't like this. So this is kind of a swing for the fences moment, which is I would not recommend necessarily, but I'm going to draft Zeke Elliott here. I have no idea if he ends up with a team or not. So this could end up being a totally disastrous pick. And he definitely is not the player he once was. He's definitely lost a step, but there's enough burst in him to be a decent, above average running back. And I still think he's got a nose for the end zone. If he gets signed by a good team, I think he's the kind of guy that can end up being a good flex option. And so not a great pick. It's definitely risky, but as my 4th running back with some question marks, I'll take a shot on him. So, Warren and Zeke, what do you think of those guys?
So I wonder about Najee Harris. He was horrible last season, but he was playing hurt. And at some point you have to stop making excuses for players because like he just hasn't been the sort of player that the Steelers thought they were getting when they took him in the first round. I like Jaylen Warren as a player. I just wonder when he's going to get the opportunity, but I think there's a chance that he will though. So I like the pick. I think I would make that a couple rounds later, like around 9. But at the same time, there's not much left. I've run into this with everyone I've done mock drafts with. We had the golf guys on Thursday. We had a body burner on Monday. I was solo yesterday. Now you're on. There's just it's so thin starting in round 8, round 8 to 11. It's just there's nothing here. And one of the golf guys is like, man, all these guys suck. And I pointed out that it's not all the guys who suck. It's just the running backs and receivers. So I think this is the time where you start taking your quarterbacks and tight ends and then draft your sleepers later. I really think you could have gotten Jaylen Warren in round 9. But again, there's really not much to go on here. I was gonna consider Samaje Perine, by the way. It's a good pick by Body Burner. I'm not a fan of Javonte Williams at all this year. I'll get to Elliott in a second. I have to make my pick. So Pittman just went. Not a fan there because Richardson's just going to run a lot. I think I'm going to go quarterback here, and Sloppy Steaks doesn't have a quarterback. So although he's not going to take 2, right? So let me. Okay, I'm just going to take the quarterback I want. Justin Herbert. I would have waited until 9, but I guess running out of time. So I was talking too much. So I've been saying this a lot. I love the Chargers this year. I think they're a good bet to win the Super Bowl at 30-1. Justin Herbert, I think, is going to have a huge season. Kellen Moore's there running that offense. They're going to go downfield more. He's going to be protected by Rashawn Slater again. They drafted Quentin Johnson. They have big plans for their offense this season. I think it's a good chance. Yes, the Sloppy Steaks want the other quarterback. So I think there's a good chance Herbert even wins MVP this season. I think the Chargers are, if they stay healthy, I think they're a top 3 team in the NFL. So yeah, I like Herbert a lot, and I'm going to be on the clock again. So what I was saying before, I was going to take someone else here, but I was searching on the running backs, and the guy wasn't showing up, and I got confused. So it just didn't pan out. So Sloppy Six went Freiermuth instead.
I just got booted out of the draft room for some reason.
Oh, you did?
I did. So I'm there it is. I'm back now. Okay. I'm having tech issues here.
How are you able to get back? I was not. I have not been able to get back at all. I don't know.
Oh, that was weird. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay.
So anyway, I went Zach Charbonnet with my 902 pick. Kenneth Walker was I think a little overrated last year. Like metrics wise, he wasn't great, and Seattle just took Charbonnet in the second round. So they might have some plans for him. And if Walker goes down, Charbonnet, like if Walker went down today, Charbonnet would bump up to a 3rd round pick. So we're just going for upside here in the second half of the draft. To go back to what you said about Zeke, I'm very confident he's going to be on a team at some point soon. I think he's just waiting on an injury. But I have a sneaking suspicion that the Patriots are going to sign him to be their goal line back. They really have nothing behind Ramondre Stevenson. And Stevenson's not great at the goal line. So they could get Zeke for that role. That's what I suspect.
That would be great for this team, this fictional team. Yeah, and Zeke is hard. He's one. Dalvin Cook went in the 6th round in this mock draft here. Not sure what to do with Dalvin Cook either. It's hard to know. You're confident these guys will be signed. Dalvin Cook is actually a better player than Zeke at this point, and so more confident in Cook than Zeke. Hey, those guys are they're kind of upside, swing for the fences kind of players.
Right. And Cook has some off the field problems that might prevent him from being signed. So, which Zeke does not, even though I think Cook at this rate is a better player than Zeke, who's just like, yeah, he's really fallen off, but still like he's really good at the goal line, and he's going to have some opportunity, I think, this year. Yeah. Anyway. We just Shark week soon took his 2nd quarterback. I would not recommend that, and I don't think it was an auto pick either. So I would not recommend that. You're up right now.
So here I'm thinking quarterback maybe in this spot here. I don't love this spot. Other places I definitely need some more wide receiver depth, but I'm gonna take my quarterback here. What a thing to be able to get Aaron Rodgers here late 9th round. He might return 9th round value. I think it's highly unlikely he returns 12th round value. I think it's possible that he returns 4th round value. Like I think there's a scenario where Aaron Rodgers throws 4,000 yards, 38 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and is the quarterback 4. Mm-hmm. I think it's also possible he's quarterback 10. I think it's almost 0 that he's quarterback 15. So getting him in the 9th round you're going to get 9th round value, 10th round value, but there's tremendous upside with Aaron Rodgers. I think he's kind of a league swinging type player. And so I find myself drafting him quite a bit. I kind of feel that way with Dak Prescott as well. I think Dak is the kind of guy that doesn't have the talent that Aaron Rodgers has, but I think he's in a system where he could end up being a top 5 fantasy quarterback. I guess you could say that, but almost any of these quarterbacks, to be honest, right? There's a wide range of opportunity for a lot of these guys. So I need receiver depth here. There's no running backs that I absolutely love. There's no one I think is absolutely amazing in this spot. And so I'm going to go with a guy that I tend to like when I watch him play. I tend to like him a little more than most people. That's Jacoby Myers. He's with a new team. But I tend to like him a little more than most. I don't know what his ADP is, so he's probably getting drafted a little later than 10th round. I don't know what his role is going to be, obviously, in Vegas, but I like him as a player and looking for depth. So Myers is there. Thoughts on the quarterbacks?
I like Aaron Rodgers a lot. I got him in my draft yesterday. I think he's going to be in FU mode to prove the Packers wrong. Kind of reminds me of Brett Favre that one year when he went to Minnesota. He just had a great season, and then the next year he fell off. So I think we could see something similar with Rodgers. He might be able to have 2 great years with the Jets, but I think it's more likely that he will have like one outstanding season, and I think this is going to be the year. He had a broken thumb last year. I think like people just kind of brush that off, and that really affected his play. As long as he stays healthy, I definitely like Rodgers, and Jacoby Myers is a solid receiver there. We had a question here from Bagley. He says, Kenny, what's the earliest you'd take a quarterback? Like, imagine you're drafting for all 12 teams. What round does Mahomes go in? Or Josh Allen, if you like him more?
Oh, that's a great question. I'll think about that as you're about to be on the clock here in a second. Okay, so you got to. I just can't ever see myself taking a guy. I personally can't ever see myself taking a guy before round like 7 or 8. And
really, so if Mahomes is there at like 6'10", like you wouldn't, or Josh Allen 6'10", you pass.
That's a great. I probably could get suckered into going if I'm in the late 5th and Mahomes is there. Late 6th, if Allen or Hurts was there, that's probably my best spot there. I just have so much confidence in my ability to replace quarterbacks off the waiver wire and streaming that I just have a tough time investing that kind of draft capital.
I don't disagree. I think I said I would consider Josh Allen or Mahomes at 502, and like even then, like I might have passed. And like I think I might have gone there and just like kind of seen how my draft went, and then I would have been disappointed in my running backs or receivers. So like I totally agree. Like you can. I won in our league. I don't know if you remember this. I had a run in the playoffs where I won the championship with I started Eli Manning, and then Daniel Jones. Because like Eli Manning, remember that was his final year, and then he got benched in this final game or something, and then Daniel Jones was starting. So like I started all 3 Giants quarterbacks for all 3 games, and I went against. In the championship, I went against Lamar Jackson the year he won MVP. And like Lamar Jackson, like barely outscored Daniel Jones. It's so easy to go matchups with quarterbacks. The difference between the top quarterback and the middle quarterback is not that vast, like despite what people say. So we had, I'm gonna go back to this comment, like Stackhouse saying, come on, Mahomes or Cam Akers, I'll take Mahomes. I mean, obviously in real life, Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. If you're building a real team, you obviously take Mahomes with the first pick. But this is fantasy, and like you have to compare the top quarterback to the medium quarterback versus the top running back to a medium. Not that Akers is the top running back, but like a guy like Akers to a medium running back, or a guy also a 4th round receiver to the medium receiver. The difference between the running backs is so much greater than the distance between the top quarterback and the medium quarterback. It's just like it really is like a huge difference, and so that taking a quarterback like that early is a big mistake, just because you're hurting your depth at running back and receiver, which is like 2 positions that are so thin. Like you have to build your team on those 2 positions, and then later in the draft, when like the talent like kind of stinks in rounds 9 through 11, like that's when you start taking your quarterbacks and tight ends.
Yeah. You don't value players based on how much points they're going to score or how good they are in real life football. You have to evaluate fantasy players by how much will they outscore replacement players at their position. The old baseball stat WAR, wins above replacement. That sort of mentality, which dominates both fantasy baseball and real life baseball. But that sort of mentality, that sort of statistic, doesn't dominate people in fantasy football. At least not in a lot of places. And I think it's one of the edges you can get in fantasy. Like, these guys are going to outscore their guys at their own position, and I think that's what gives you an edge. So, I love Mahomes. I think he's a great player. I mean, he's probably my favorite player to watch in the NFL right now, besides maybe Hassan Reddick. That's a very
Hassan
homer.
Reddick.
That's a homer.
Unless Hassan Reddick is slipping on the field, like he was in the Super
No,
Bowl.
don't remind me. Okay.
So bad. Shark Week soon has to be auto drafting. You took his third quarterback, but you're on the clock right now.
Yeah. Okay, there's another running back that I like, but I can't tell if he already went. And is he on this board?
Just type in his name in the search.
Okay. How much time do I got? I got 20 seconds. Okay, I better hurry up. Before I get the auto pick. Okay, 15 seconds. Here we go. Okay, here we go. All right. I don't know what his ADP is. I'm going to take Rashawn Johnson, running back from Chicago. I love both of these guys. I love Khalil Herbert and I love Rashawn Johnson. I think they're really good players. I'm just not sure what the Chicago's offense is going to be. And a lot of people are often nervous to take. Running backs with running quarterbacks. There's actually some statistics to show that running quarterbacks actually are helpful to running backs in a lot of ways. So particularly if you're running a lot of option plays, things of that nature. So I actually have no problem taking him here. The probability is he's a swing for the fences kind of player. And now I'm in a position where I desperately need some running back or some receiver depth. In real life, I don't know who I would take here. I'd have to think through, but for time's sake, I'll grab Marquez Valdez Scantling. I can't say his name. MVS, as they say. In real life, I would just try to think about a quality receiver in this spot, but I don't really have the energy to think about that at this moment, so I'll just pick him. All right, I like Rashawn Johnson. I think I'm looking at his ADP is round 13, so I'm taking him in 12 or 11. So that's a little early. I probably should have flip-flopped those two picks, but whatever. So pretend I took MVS in the 11th and Johnson in the 12th.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a big deal. I actually would go Rashawn Johnson over MVS. Just for his upside. The problem is that they have 3 running backs on that team. If it was just Khalil Herbert in front of Johnson, I'd be like fine. But there's also Deontay Foreman who played very well down the stretch last year. But I do like Rashawn Johnson. They've been praising his pass blocking. I think there's definitely upside there. So I like him in the double-digit rounds. Dylan is echoing something I was thinking, actually. The players available are horrible. This is the best mock I've done so far. I agree. Like, except for we had one computer. Steam was on auto draft, and Shark Week soon. I think he went on auto draft around where Goddard and Prescott went. So maybe he got kicked out or something. But yeah, this is a really good draft. Usually I've had issues like starting like round 10, but like I had issues in like round 8. So that's why I settled on a quarterback there. I just didn't like anyone. So when you don't like any running backs and receivers, that's when you take a quarterback. I think that's like the answer.
When they're all just like, that's just like, they're just gross. Like this, you just like,
yeah. And that's why you don't take a quarterback early, because like that's when you go quarterback, is like when you don't like them anymore. All right, so I'm up again. It's time to swing for the fences with some rookies or second-year players. I've been hearing good things about this guy. In fact, we had Nuggets on Thursday, and he was trying to talk me into betting Jalen Hyatt to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I guess Sloppy Stakes is on our draft here with 2 tight ends. He was trying to talk me into betting Jalen Hyatt to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think at 40-1. I said I wanted like 50 or 60-1. But he's been looking really good in training camp, like catching a ton of deep passes. So, and they had nothing at receiver with the Giants. So we have 15 rounds. So this is my last non-defense, non-kicker. So I'm going to talk about swinging for the fences. I'm going to take Anthony Richardson. I usually don't like to take 2 quarterbacks, but I think with someone as someone who has like immense upside like Richardson, my goal here is like he becomes like Justin Fields and like runs like crazy and becomes like a great fantasy option, and that allows me to trade either Herbert or Richardson. So I normally would just not take 2 quarterbacks, just one. But the exception to the rule is like someone who has like immense upside like Richardson.
Right.
Okay, so yeah, we have some other comments here. Let's get to them. Dylan says this is up there with some sharp, higher stakes best ball drafts I do. Yeah, this is pretty impressive. I was glad to do this draft tonight. Bagley says 2 quarterbacks. I think Bagley here is referring to the guy who drafted Jalen Hurts took Prescott, but I think that was on computer. So I wouldn't read too much into that. Dylan says Rodgers looks super motivated and rejuvenated in Hard Knocks, feeding off young players' energy. I think Rodgers is going to have one of his best seasons, and he could win MVP again. I think the only reason he might not is because people have given him that award so many times.
Right.
So it's like the Jokic probably winning should have won this year again, but they gave it to Embiid.
No, Embiid definitely deserved to win it, 100%.
You think Embiid deserved it?
I'm a totally objective Sixers fan. So.
Kid No Name pointing out no tight end. Well, yeah. Whoops, I need a tight end. So there we go.
Is your screen frozen? Oh, there it is. Okay, it took a second to catch up.
Okay. Okay, you took Chuba Hubbard. Real quick, Eric saying I'm Shark Week soon. I accidentally refreshed my phone browser. Is there any way to rejoin? I've been kicked out. I haven't been able to get in. So
I refreshed and it let me back in, which is weird.
Which I did that the past 2 times I got kicked out. It wouldn't let me in. So I don't know what you're doing different, but I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, I do need the tight end. I completely forgot about tight end. I got so focused on like drafting sleepers that I just forgot about the position, which is like I really don't care about tight ends. Like this is another position you could just go matchups. It's just what I do. Like there are certain teams in the NFL that can't defend tight ends at all because the linebackers kind of suck. Like Arizona is a great example for that. Like not now, but years ago when Arizona, before they drafted the 2 linebackers that they got recently, they just couldn't defend tight ends at all. And so you could play like Irv Smith Jr. against them, and he would outproduce like Mark Andrews like on that week. It's kind of like remember when we started fantasy and I would play the defense that always went against Jake Plummer. So good. Like I would start the worst defense in the NFL against Jake Plummer and like they'd get like 2 pick sixes. Like it was awesome. So like a lot of this stuff is matchups. I'm gonna go with my tight end here. I actually like Greg Dulcich a lot. And the Raiders historically have horrible linebackers. I know Jerry Jeudy kind of like monies this pick a lot, but I think Dulcich is someone who should go like way earlier. I would also consider Gerald Everett against Miami, but I don't know. I think they're pretty close, and it seems like the Chargers always have like a million tight ends. So I'm gonna go defense here and just not draft the kicker, which I don't recommend drafting kickers if you don't need to. Looking at defenses here, let's go Jacksonville's defense against the Colts in week 1. I don't have to start Richardson against them, but the Colts offense should be pretty bad with Richardson or Minshew. This is not Minshew playing with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith behind the best offensive line in the NFL. Like this is going to be, and also Dallas Goedert. This is going to be Minshew playing behind a subpar offensive line with 1 good receiver and a running back who's dealing with an ankle injury right now. So I think that Jacksonville's defense should be pretty good, at least in week 1. And they were actually 9th in defensive EPA last year, which kind of surprised me when I was looking that up. So I like Jacksonville late. So I wouldn't read too much into defenses though.
No, I think the Eagles are a decent defense. I'm an Eagles fan. I like it's just fun to be able to have my favorite team's defense. So whenever the Eagles are a decent defense, I often just play them, or I play the quarter. I remember it was in 2016 or 27. It was 2016 when I pretty much targeted Jared Goff every week. Whatever defense was playing Jared Goff, I ended up, and I think like 9 of the 13 weeks of the regular season in our league, I had Jared Goff or had the defense going against Jared Goff, and it worked out quite fantastic. So I think it's a tactic that's valuable. It's a strategy that's I think works. It doesn't always work, obviously, in every league because the defense might not be available. But All right, am I obligated to take a kicker in this spot?
No, you can do whatever you want.
All right, I'll do what I want. That's right.
Yesterday I closed my eyes and picked a random kicker, and I clicked on an ad by accident.
Okay, I can't find him here. So I'm just gonna take a kicker, but pretend I took someone else. Uh, let's going to pretend I'm taking Trey Sermon here, and I'll talk about maybe Trey Sermon and Chuba Hubbard. Draft is over.
Trey Sermon?
Yeah. Trey Sermon. Come on, you've heard of him.
Yeah, I know.
In the last, what was that? Did you find him?
He's there.
Yeah. He may not make the Eagles roster. He is currently the 4th running back in camp, so that's not an exciting place to be. He's the 5th running back in camp. So DeAndre Swift, Rashard Penny, Kenny Gainwell, and Boston Scott are all ahead on the depth chart. But at Ohio State, I thought he was phenomenal. He was drafted in the 3rd round by the Niners, ended up in the doghouse, and then got cut by the Niners. But we've seen good players get in the doghouse with the 49er coaching staff before. It's happened with some good players. And Trey Sermon has all the talent in the world. It just seems like there was a discipline issue. It's kind of between the ears. If that guy figures it out, I think he has the chance to be the best runner. I think he's potentially the most talented running back on the Eagles roster, behind what will likely be one of the top 3 offensive lines. And all the reports out of camp is that he has been he has flashed more in camp than any of the other Eagles running backs. And so it is probable he gets cut. They never make the team. But if Trey Sermon makes the team, I'm going to want to stash him in some leagues if I can, just to see if he doesn't pop in the first 2 weeks, then you cut him and you move on. But I don't think it's crazy to think that Trey Sermon is going to be a running back in the rotation for the Eagles this year.
Well, at the very least, you could play him in a preseason DraftKings contests.
Exactly.
So you talked me into that at least. That's interesting. I didn't even consider Sermon. So we'll see how that plays out. Bodyburner is saying my Kyle Pitts pick was a mistake, ran out of time. Yeah, I didn't. Was a little surprised he took a tight end. But yeah, that makes sense. Dylan says, if you get kicked out, click back to the previous page, then go forward into the draft room and click refresh. I'll try that next time. I feel like I've tried like everything, but maybe that's like the secret sauce to getting back. And Eric says, I would never take Dak. McCarthy is suspect as F. Yeah. That is the bad part about that. And, Kellen Moore being gone, I think the Dallas offense is going to be worse. Anyway, so do you want to talk about your team? And then I'll talk about mine, and then we'll talk about some other teams here.
Yeah, I don't love this team. And so I think that's why we do mock drafts, to figure out, okay, I made some decisions early. I love Barkley. Barkley's one of my top 3 players in a standard league, really in PPR, any format. I love Barkley. I like my running backs. I think there's some great upside here, but I think this could be a disaster too, right? Brian Robinson I think he's great. He could split with Antonio Gibson, and maybe that offense isn't as good as maybe they're bottom 10 offense, and maybe Jaylen Warren doesn't take supplant, Najee Harris. Maybe Zeke gets signed to a team that doesn't give him goal line carries. Maybe Rashawn Johnson gets stuck. This could be a total disaster running back room right here. And that means this team is not making the playoffs, right? But it could pop. Brian Robinson could be awesome. Jaylen Warren, I think, could be a quality RB2. Zeke could pop. And so Aaron Rodgers could be, like you said, in FU mode and be a top 3, top 4 quarterback. And then in that case, then this team is one of the best teams in the league. But I think it's a very boomer bust team in that case. The only guy I haven't really talked about is Chuba Hubbard. Listen, I love Miles Sanders for what I appreciate his contributions. I've watched this guy at Penn State and in the Eagles. I've watched this guy's whole career. Miles Sanders is not good at football. He's a great athlete. He's average at football. You could watch the Eagles and see these wide open holes, and he would find a way to run into I've never seen a running back run into his guards so often. And so Chuba Hubbard doesn't have the talent and athleticism that Miles Sanders has. But I think he's a reliable running back with better vision. I foresee Hubbard getting a lot more play on. Miles Sanders got 9 snaps in the Super Bowl. 9. Why? Look, why did a Pro Bowl 1,300-yard running back get 9 snaps? Because the coaching staff did not trust him, and they shouldn't. And so I foresee Hubbard. But when does it happen? I don't know. So I foresee the second half of the season, Hubbard getting a lot of touches. I don't think he completely supplants Sanders, but I could foresee Hubbard, who's a decent player in his own right, getting a lot of carries. So I think he could be a sneaky sufficient. Also, when was the last time Miles Sanders went through an entire season without injury? The answer is never. So, so I like Hubbard. So I like the upside of my running backs, but from a reliability standpoint, I think there's a lot to be desired there. I love the receivers: Diggs, Smith, Samuel. I think Devontae Smith is being totally underrated by lots of people out there. I think he's fantastic. Deebo Samuel, I think, is great, obviously. So I generally like this squad, but I think this team potentially could be a 4-win team. If a couple things go wrong, this team could be bad.
I'm not going to argue about Miles Sanders with you. He cost me so much money with that fumble against Dallas that let Dallas cover the spread. I think I lost the potential to make $75,000 with that play because I would have finished like second in the final third mini contest in the super contest, which paid out like $75,000. If the Eagles had covered that spread in that game. Instead, I finished like 5th or 6th, which didn't pay any money. So that really hurt. But as my proxy Andy says, you always remember the games you should have won, but not the ones you should have lost. So maybe I shouldn't complain.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great mentality to have. He's super smart, and he's been a professional gambler for a long time and successful for a good reason. So. Anyway, my team. So, I think it's hard to like any team here because of how well everyone drafted. It feels like things got very thin very quickly. But I think this is a decent team. McCaffrey. I know you don't like Gibbs as much. I know the Lions love Gibbs like so much. So I think they have huge plans for him this year, and he was they envision him as the next Jamal Charles or Alvin Kamara. So I'm very high on him. So yeah, McCaffrey, Gibbs, I love there. And then you get to Kamara, and then Kamara, Charbonnet. My running backs are kind of thin, but you could say that about most teams probably. I like my receiving core, although I have no stud like Olave, Judy, London, Dotson. I like those guys quite a bit. Justin Herbert, I think he could finish as a top 5 quarterback. So to get him in round 8, I think is pretty good. And then I almost forgot to take a tight end, but Greg Dulcich is someone I would consider if I had to take a tight end in the 11th round or 12th round, like Dulcich is probably like someone I would have taken there. Like if I was forced into that. So to get him that late is just fine. Anthony Richardson, hopefully if I get him in a real league and he goes off, I could trade him or the other quarterback. So that is my team. You want to look at a couple of other teams? I think Sloppy Steaks was auto drafting at some point, so I don't want to like look at that. Let's look at team 3. Germ. He went Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle at the start. So 2 receivers. You have to look at how his running backs turned out. Ramondre Stevenson, Isaiah Pacheco, Khalil Herbert. I think it's like pretty decent. And then he got Joe Burrow. So I like this team overall. Like I think it's pretty good. He doesn't have a star running back, but I think that's fine. What do you think about Germ?
I think Stevenson has the potential to be a stud. I think I really like him as a talent. I'm not 100% confident in the Patriots offense right now, but I really like Stevenson as a player. I think he's got some upside, but early 3rd round, I think is really good. I mean, I would be considering him mid to late 2nd round. I think he's in my thought. So I like him there. So I think that's good. I really like Pacheco as well. I think early over here, late 4th round feels a little bit early for Pacheco. I think his ADP is like 6th round, but I think 4th round grade is good. Actually, I think on my website I have a 4th round grade on Pacheco, kind of targeting him in rounds 5 and 6 usually. So I think he's good. Keenan Allen is good. I love Khalil Herbert. Obviously, I think he's got fantastic upside. Joe Burrow is good. I don't know what the injury is going to be. How's that going to impact him? Michael Pittman, I love the talent, but I'm just not sure what that team's going to look like. Yeah, so there's some. I think there's some. I think this potentially is a decent team. I don't know that I love Dalton Schultz, but I think top to bottom, this is one of the better teams here.
All right, so what do you think about Body Burner? He drafted with us on Monday. Because the Kyle Pitts pick he said was a mistake because it timed them out. But so Nick Chubb, Cam Akers, I think that's it's a nice 1-2 punch at running back. I know you're not a big Miles Sanders guy, so you're not going to like that pick. But Samaje Perine is someone I like. His receiving core looks thin, so I think that's where he would have taken his third receiver with Kyle Pitts there. But I love Garrett Wilson. I love T. Higgins, but then you get past that. Although I like Brandon Cooks and John Mechie has potential. Jameson Williams could be really good for him down the stretch, but he's suspended the first 6 games. So like that's his third receiver. So if like one of Wilson or Higgins goes down, like he might be in trouble in the first 6 weeks. Although he is like, I like Bateman's okay. It's like the receiving depth is not that bad actually. So and then his quarterback is Russell Wilson. Yeah, I like the team. What do you think?
Yeah, I like this team. I love Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's my number 1 overall player. I think he's worth the number 1 pick. I think he's fantastic, and his ADP is late, is early second in most on the Fantasy Pros consensus.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So 4, some people would say that's too early. I think it's fine. Garrett Wilson, I don't think it's crazy to think that Garrett Wilson finishes as the number 1 overall wide receiver this year. That's the kind of talent he has. Mm-hmm. And if Aaron Rodgers is locked in, Wilson's going to score a lot of touchdowns this year. It's not crazy to think that Wilson's going to have 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns, 16 touchdowns, or more. And so I love Garrett Wilson. I think I'd love to get him late second round. I think it's fantastic. So T. Higgins, I don't love. Cam Akers, I love. Miles Sanders, Kyle Pitts, if you replace him with a better receiver there instead of them and you're taking a receiver later. Yeah, I think I really like Body Burner's team here as well. I think his team is also a great microcosm of kind of what the things are like right now, where I love this team, but even his team just falls off on a cliff, right? It's just like the quality, of picks from 7, and that's not Body Burner's fault. That's just the nature of where the drop off is. Like even on a team that I like, it's just sort of gross once you get to a certain point. And I think that's kind of emblematic of where we are right now going into the 2023 draft season.
Yeah, for sure. And our drafts are going to be easier because like we're not going to have this sort of like caliber of drafter in our leagues. Like as you know, like I've been in this league with you since 05 or 06, and we tend to have a lot of sketchy picks that tend to happen. Wild Sex with Walt. Sounds exciting. So Austin Eckler, Kenneth Walker. I think decent running back 1-2 punch. I think it's pretty good. And then he has Devontae Adams, Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, solid receiving core. You have Justin Fields in the 7th round, which is like pretty good. I've seen him go in the 5th round. So not like crazy value, but still like pretty good. Mark Andrews, I see him going 3rd round. He went 5th round. So as like, I don't like to go tight end and quarterback early, but he did get some value, like relatively speaking. And then I don't know why I took Hendon Hooker late. Like Hendon Hooker's not going to play this year, but otherwise, I think this is pretty solid. Kareem Hunt, like who knows? Maybe he signs with the team, like the Colts or Saints, and he becomes something. So I think this team is pretty good as well. What do you think?
Yeah, this is not as good, I think, as the other two, as German or Bodybuilder, but I think there's some upside here. Austin Eckler, to me, I still wonder, because of his style and his size, I'm always wondering when he's going to fall off when he's going to get injured. So I'm always a little bit nervous with Eckler, but he's been great the last 2 years. So, he keeps shutting me up. Devontae Adams is great. Kenneth Walker, I think, is great, but there's a question mark there. Terry McLaurin, great, but there's a question mark. Mark Andrews, great, question mark on the offense. What do they want to be? What's their identity? Chris Godwin has been great, but injury, inconsistency. Like I think every single one of these players from Ken Walker down to Godwin have a serious question mark that makes me concerned. And Justin Fields is maybe the ultimate boom bust player right now, right? I mean, Justin Fields, I've gone back and watched some of him play. He is just not a good thrower of the football right now. But he's Garrett, he averaged 70 yards on the ground a game last year. So, he's pretty much guaranteed to run fresh for 1,000 yards this year, I think. And he's above average. So, and 2 years ago, Jalen Hurts was not a very good thrower of the football. So maybe Justin Fields can develop. Most of the time, guys that are not good at throwing don't get better. Hurts is unique in that way. So I'm not going to bet on it, but Justin Fields is the ultimate boom bust player. Like, if Justin Fields finishes as the number one quarterback, I would not be surprised. If he finishes as the 18th best quarterback, I also would not be surprised. Like, I think he's the ultimate player. So I think he's going to swing a lot of teams in either direction this year.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Football Nick, I don't like the team very much. Obviously, Tyreek Hill, Jonathan Taylor, you're going to be a big fan of, or at least I think so. But then you get to Breece Hall, who is coming off a torn ACL. I would not touch him that early at all. Just don't take running backs coming off torn ACLs. It's a big mistake. Amari Cooper, Brandon Ayuk, solid, but then he gets to Dave Montgomery, and I know you hate that pick. I don't like it either. I think he's overrated. Like, he's not going to get as many touchdowns as Jamal Williams did last year. Just like, don't count on that. Like, maybe half as many, but like, he's not. Darren Waller, he's always hurt. Not sure why you would take him in the 7th round. I like Trevor Lawrence, but then he gets to Tyler Algier. If Bijan goes down, sure, but I don't know. And then he took a second quarterback. I'm not sure why you do that. So yeah, I don't like this team. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's okay. There's some major question marks. I love Brandon Ayuk as a player. I don't know what he's going to do. I think there's a lot of question marks here. The Jonathan Taylor situation, I'm just not sure where to draft him. I don't know what's going to happen. Is he going to be disengaged from the team? I'm curious how that impacts his fantasy value. So obviously we love the player, but I'm not sure what to make of Jonathan Taylor. We love Tyreek Hill, obviously. Amari Cooper, he's got all the talent in the world, but this guy, man, he just never puts it together. He's so inconsistent. At the end of the year, the numbers look good, but the ride along the way is never fun.
Yeah. Yeah, there was only like 4 great games and then just like 8 like bad games.
I don't understand the guy. Yeah, so no offense, Football Nick. Yeah, I don't know that I love this team either. Yeah, I think it's fine. David Montgomery, he's worthy of being drafted at some point. I just don't think he's a good player, and so maybe he's in the 8th round, but I see him going. I've seen David Montgomery go as high as the late 4th in a draft. I'm just like, what? Like, so yeah. 6 is not as bad, but I'm still not taking that player. Yeah, I also the Bryce Hall thing is situations. He came on so strong, and then he got injured last year, and I'm like, man, but he got injured early enough. You said don't take running backs coming off ACL tear. I say don't take running backs coming off ACL tear unless they're named Adrian Peterson,
right?
Because he might run for 2,000 yards after coming off an ACL. Bryce Hall, I think he's got talent enough, and the tear was early enough in the season where I would be willing to risk it. But then they started kicking the tires on Dalvin Cook, and I thought to myself, that leads me to believe that the team thinks they need to upgrade, which makes me nervous.
Here's some news that I've said before. I don't know if you've heard it, but the Jets were planning on taking Jahmyr Gibbs at 15. That should tell you all you need to know about Breece Hall. And also Saquon Barkley tore his ACL in week 2 of 2020, and then 2021 he was just horrible. Which like I just stayed away from him because of that torn ACL. And then last year, obviously, he was great. So Breece Hall in 2024, I'm all for that. And he's going to go later because I think he's going to struggle this year. Like, we might get him in like the 4th round next year, and he's going to be awesome. Anyway, Steam was on auto draft, so we'll skip him. Pinto. So I know you don't like Najee Harris. Not like crazy about him either. I do expect him to play better this year, but I do think you might be right that like maybe he's just not that good and they just overvalued him with the 1st round pick. But I know he was hurt last year, so I think he bounces back. Plus they improved their offensive line. So I think Pittsburgh, like whether it's with Harris or Warren, I suspect they're gonna run better. So I don't hate the pick. I know you're not gonna like it, but Alexander Madison I like a lot. Dalvin Cook, Jamal Williams, like it's not the best depth, but then again, like who has great running back depth? I think the Josh Allen pick kind of messed up his receiving depth though. Like he has AJ Brown to start, which is great, but then Christian Watson's is number 2. It's not ideal. Like I'd rather have gone like Amari Cooper or Terry McLaurin or Jerry Jeudy. So as a receiving depth is kind of shot, and like Elijah Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster. I like Moore, maybe not in the 8th round though. And then Juju Smith-Schuster is like, man, like he wasn't great with Mahomes. Like he's suddenly going to be good with Mac Jones. Like I don't see it. So right. So and then he took 2 tight ends. So yeah, I can't say I like this team very much.
No, this is probably Pinto, probably one of the worst teams. I think in part, AJ Brown I love, obviously, and I'm biased because I'm an Eagles fan, but AJ Brown, it's not a terrible pick, but it's, his ADP has been kind of early to mid-second in most places I've seen. It's not terrible to take him 8th overall. But I just think it's better to take a running back in that spot. I think Derrick Henry, and listen, I'm legendary for being the anti-Derrick Henry guy. I think I'd rather take Derrick Henry. I'd obviously take Saquon. Probably take Bijan Robinson ahead of him. I'd probably take Tony Pollard. Probably take Josh Jacobs. I'd probably take all those guys above A.J. Brown before I take a receiver. I love A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown could be the number 1 receiver over fantasy this year. I mean, I think he's great. I'm not dogging the guy, but I just think he's not the great pick there. And I think Najee Harris, he's a fine player. He's okay. He's fine. But I think it's definitely possible that he's in a 50-50 split for most of the season. And I think it's possible that Jaylen Warren kind of is getting 60% of the carries in the second half of the year. And I don't think I want my second round pick in my fantasy draft getting 40% of the touches down the stretch when I got to win games and making the playoffs or try to win a playoff game. That's not ideal. So that's just me. I think Dalvin Cook is a boomer bust pick, right? Who knows? Could Dalvin Cook end up on a team and Dalvin Cook end up being returning first, second round value? I think that's definitely possible. So I think Dalvin Cook in the 6th is a great selection there. And I agree, right? If you wait, maybe if you punt on Josh Allen, take a receiver there and take a quarterback later, maybe this team looks very different.
Yeah, we have a great question here from Monster Dong. He says, "What do you think about drafting a San Francisco gay hooker in the final 3 rounds?" I didn't see him available.
His name is Hendon Hooker. Is he gay? What? I don't understand.
No, he just said just drafting a gay hooker in the final 3 rounds. We didn't have them available. I have to email Fantasy Football Calculator again to bother Kevin over there. Anyway, let's get to Shark Week soon got kicked off the final half. So just real quick, this Jalen Hurts pick, I don't like. I was kind of surprised he went over Mahomes and Allen, to be frank. But like, so if you want to argue he should be the first quarterback, that's fine. I just wouldn't take a quarterback in the 3rd round. Don't like Dobbins. Just like so mediocre there, and Baltimore's offensive line is not great. Aaron Jones, who knows what the Packer offense is going to look like. And so like he started well with Kupp and Jacobs, but then kind of fell off. Like DJ Moore's with Justin Fields now. Like I feel like this might be his worst year. Deontay Johnson, not a big fan of him. Don't hate him, but not great. So I don't like this draft beyond round 2.
Yeah, I probably like it more than you do. Jalen Hurts in the 3rd round is, I said earlier, Mahomes in the 5th is probably, and I love Jalen Hurts. I'm biased. I'm an Eagles fan, but I've got Hurts I got him behind Mahomes and Allen. I would take both of those guys ahead of Hurts right this moment. And I wouldn't take any of them before rounds 5 or 6. So that's odd to me. I think I like Dobbins more than you do. I'm a little bit surprised. I think the talent is there. You seem really down on Dobbins. I think 4th round is about right for him. Is about the value. Is the right pick. I actually thought about him instead of Deebo Samuel in that spot. So, is there something particular about the Ravens' offense that's really making you concerned?
Yeah, the offensive line's not good. They lost guard, and also like Ronnie Stanley's never healthy. And like with Monk in there, they're going to throw a lot more. They added to the receiving core. I feel like they're just going to air it out more this season. And like, I don't know. I've never like Dobbins has never like been super impressive to me. I feel like he's just an average running back behind an average offensive line. Yeah, just I don't really see it with him.
All right. Wow. I guess. I mean, that's a part of the game. We get to we have different perspectives, I guess. I watch Dobbins and I see real talent that's not been harnessed properly.
Maybe I'm just remembering his torn ACL year from last year. I don't know. He is 2 years removed from the torn ACL, so he's going to be better this season. I don't know. I have trouble clicking that name. I just can't do it.
Okay.
I don't know. He could prove me wrong. I'm not like super firm in that stance. I just don't like it very much. Anything else about this team before we move on?
No, I think generally, again, we've said it a bunch of times, but people doing ADP or doing mock drafts, I think is helpful. It gets you a feel for trying different things, different spots to give you a feel for, what types of decisions could I make, and what lessons you can learn from those kind of decisions.
Yeah, for sure. It is super important. Dylan says, "Why do you call Jordan Love no cookie LMAO?" That is from my book, "How the 2020 MVP Was Stolen." If you want to check it out, you might like it or you might hate it, depending on what you think. But yeah, it's on Amazon. You could just type in "How the 2020 MVP Was Stolen." It's the story about how Brett Favre took away or tried to take away Aaron Rodgers' MVP. It's an interesting read, I think. Or maybe it's terrible, but I don't know. Maybe you can tell me. All right, kid no name number 10. He drafts with us frequently. So his running back core: Derrick Henry, Dameon Pierce, James Cook, Rashad White, I think is pretty good. The only concern is Henry's he's had a lot of carries over the years, but he could have a good year for sure. I think Tennessee's underrated this year. I think people are too quick to dismiss them. I think they're going to be better than people think. So that could lend to Henry playing well. His receiving core looks good to me. Lamb, Metcalf, Williams. Marquise Brown was the receiver I was considering over Dawson. I just thought that Dawson had higher upside because Kyler Murray's out. So I think that's a fine pick. Then he went more upside with here with Zay Flowers. Tua is his quarterback. It's a good spot to take a quarterback, and Tua might get hurt, but then you can pick up a quarterback at that point. It's not a big deal. So what do you think about Kid No Name's team?
Yeah, overall fine. I think it's good. I think he doesn't have a terrible spot. By the way, I can never pronounce the tight end from Tennessee's name.
Chiggy Okonkwo.
Okonkwo, right? That's I've only watched about 3 or 4 Tennessee Titans games. So my goal is to go back on Game Pass and watch some of him. Several guys, several websites that I follow that I respect really said that he was really good last year in route running and kind of quick out of the breaks. So I wonder if he's a really good kind of late round tight end to go after. So I have him valued currently as about 11th round pick. So I think 13th round is a good, and maybe he's got upside. We see it pretty often. Every couple seasons, there's a tight end that kind of makes that jump. Maybe Okonkwo could be that this year. But overall, I like Kid No Name's team. Dameon Pierce in the 4th round. I watch Pierce play. I don't know I don't think he's great, but it's hard to evaluate him on that terrible offense last year. So.
I'm laughing right now. I get the San Francisco to get Gay Hooker. We have Wild took San Francisco.
Yeah.
Gay Hooker. Very nice. Very nice. Well done.
I thought you didn't realize that. I thought you knew that. You didn't realize that?
No. I was scrambling to get a tight end late. I was I don't know. I was not paying attention.
He took Matt Gay for a kicker, and then he took Hendon Hooker.
Okay. Well, okay. Very, very good. I love it. I love it. I didn't register to me.
San Francisco defense.
Yeah. When he talks so much in an hour and 20 minutes, you tend to miss some stuff. All right. That's great. All right. Dylan, his final team. Again, someone who's drafted with us a lot. I love the start of Bijan Pollard. I would not take Bijan number 1 overall. I'm just saying, obviously I love Chubb, McCaffrey, etc. But I think you can make the case that Bijan has less risk than every running back here except Chubb in the 1st round. McCaffrey, injury history. Eckler is small. He could get banged up. Henry has so many carries. Saquon Barkley, torn ACL a couple years ago. Maybe that adds up. Plus he could hold out. Bijan has less risk associated with him. I know he has never played, but he's just such a super talent. So like I like the idea of him, and he has great upside too.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard, huge fan. And then James Conner, Rashad Penny's is depth. I would stay away from the Eagles running backs until later. Like that's the only pick I don't like here. I just like the Eagles rotate their guys so much. Like Penny is going to be the main ball carrier, but then like Swift is going to get a catches, and then Kenny Gainwell is going to play in the 2 minute drill. Like, like I don't know, maybe Penny scores 10 touchdowns and like that could pay off. But man, the Eagles just rotate so much. Like it could be Boston Scott at the goal line for all we know. Like it's just like it's gonna be so frustrating. You're gonna wish that like you didn't draft them. So I would just avoid that mess. Receiving core, Calvin Ridley could have a great year. Pickens, I love. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba. Not a fan of the rookie receivers this year. I like him more like long term, especially like because like they're all number 3s right now, like on their teams. So this is not last year where like Drake London comes in is definitely the number 1. Chris Olave comes in is at least the number 2, and then Michael Thomas gets hurt. Garrett Wilson comes in, definitely a top 2 receiver on that team. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba right now is the number 3. And so like yeah, maybe Lockett just gets hurt, or maybe he's just so good he passes Lockett. But just like I feel like the rookie receivers are going way too early this year because they had the rookies last year had so much success. I don't see them paying off their price tag. But Deshaun Watson I really like in the 9th round. I talked to Dylan about Hawkinson yesterday. He loves Hawkinson, and you can't argue with the results. Like Hawkinson was amazing down the stretch last year. I just think you can wait on tight ends. I just think that I would rather, if like the only thing I would change here really, except Penny, you can argue Penny, but the only thing fundamentally I would change here, instead of Hawkinson, I would have taken a receiver here. So if you like Debo, take him, or Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy. Like I would go receiver here, and then I would draft a tight end in round 11 here, like maybe a Chiggy Okonkwo, maybe Dalton Schultz, maybe Greg Dulcich, Dawson, etc. So that's what I would change. But otherwise, I think this is a really good team. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you on Bijan Robinson and Tony Pollard. I would have Pollard ranked above Bijan Robinson, but it's close. I'm not picking that on there. I love Calvin Ridley there, bottom of the 3rd round. I think he's good. I think the TJ pick, I love TJ Hawkinson as a player, but I think I would take Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, and Dallas Goedert all above Hawkinson. Maybe that's me, but I'm also not taking a tight end that early. In fact, I think I took one in the 6th here. I think that was too early, actually. I don't like James Conner at all. I don't think he's good at football, and I wouldn't take him before round 10. Love George Pickens. Think he's phenomenal. I think I was seriously considering him there. Had I not taken Stephon Diggs in round 2 and taken a running back there, my team would have ended up being very differently. George Pickens is one of the guys I'm targeting a lot. I really like Pickens. Pickens is the kind of guy that I think this time next year, it's very possible we're talking about him as a 2nd round pick next year in fantasy drafts. Like I think he's that kind of talent. My question, of course, is the quarterback. Does the quarterback hold up? Eagles running backs, I totally agree with you. I'm an Eagles fan, so I've watched this team rotate. I think it's possible that one guy could take the majority of the carries. Miles Sanders got the majority of the carries the first half of the year last year, and then they eventually faded him out kind of down the stretch. So who knows? If Penny's great, then maybe he's the primary ball carrier, and he ends up being a double-digit guy. But who knows? Hard to know. So I totally agree with you there. Deshaun Watson, by the way, he was terrible last year. And maybe it was just because he was rusty because he hadn't played in a year and a half. And maybe it's because he hadn't got any massages recently. I don't know what it is. Oh, sorry.
That's the secret to success. He needed those massages now. It doesn't get him anymore.
In 2020, right, Deshaun Watson was all world. He was like the best in everything, it seemed like. He was absolutely terrible in 2022 for most of the games he played. Until he is better, I'm going to struggle to trust him or the receiving weapons. Nick Chubb is so good that I think Nick Chubb will be able to transcend that, no problem. I'm concerned about Watson and the receiving weapons in Cleveland. 9th round's not terrible, but I'm still not touching it. But other than that, I even like taking a flyer on Michael Thomas in the 12th round.
Yeah, I mean that could definitely pay off. We'll see. He hasn't been healthy in a long time, but
Yeah.
maybe this is the year he comes back. I do like Zach Evans and Van Jefferson. I like these sleepers, even though they're from the same team. Zach Evans, like if Cam Akers goes down, it could be the Zach Evans show for all we know. And then Van Jefferson, like there's not really anyone who catches passes in LA outside of Cooper Cup and Tyler Higbee. So like there has to be a third guy, right? And like Van Jefferson, like he and Stafford were never healthy at the same time last year. So this is their chance to bounce back. So I like these late round picks. With Deshaun Watson, I think he's not going to be as bad as he was last year. Like he was coming off a suspension. He hadn't played in 2 years. He was still getting to know his teammates. And I think with the whole offseason to get better, with a better number 2 receiver in Elijah Moore, a better offensive line because Jack Conklin was playing hurt last year. I think everything is setting up for Watson to be better this year. And I think it's definitely fair to be skeptical for sure. But I'd be surprised if he's like nearly as bad as he was last year. Maybe he doesn't get to 2020 Watson, but I think like he's definitely going to be. I think he's definitely going to be at least as good as Jacoby Brissett was last year, which is like may sound like silly to say because like Brissett's not a great quarterback, but like
Right.
Cleveland's offense last year with Brissett was like really good, and so I think that if Watson could play on that level, like they could be a playoff team with that improved defense.
Man, what you just said is quite an indictment on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
It, like the Cleveland Browns traded a lot of draft capital and they gave Deshaun Watson a whole heck of a lot of money. They were not hoping that their quarterback would. The bar is not, well, if he can be as good as Jacoby Brissett. Like that's not a good statement. That's not what the Cleveland Browns were hoping for when they pulled up the Brinks truck for Deshaun Watson, last year.
yeah. I mean, they could have just gotten Jacoby Brissett with not surrendering any picks and not paying him very much. Dave says new drinking game. Every time Kenny says he's an Eagles fan, take a shot.
You'll be drunk off your butt.
Dylan says ETR has Watson in tier 1. If Watson smashes, it could be a league winner. True. I mean, in 9th round, if he's a top 5 quarterback, for sure. That's why I like Justin Herbert there in the 8th round. I think he has potential to be a top 5 quarterback as well. So let's see here. I think we had one more comment here. Okay, so Dylan says my thing about Jonathan Taylor is even if he plays, Richardson is going to steal so many rushing touchdowns from him, especially when you consider who the head coach is. Yeah, I think there's something to that. Although, like what Kenny said before, also applies that like scrambling quarterbacks make runners better. Maybe not at the goal line, but overall, because teams are going to be so focused on Richardson running that they're not going to be worrying as much about Taylor, and they could run like some zone read option stuff. Like I think that could definitely help Taylor. My concern with Taylor is that like he's an ankle injury right now on the same ankle that caused him to miss time last year. Like maybe he just misses time. Like that's my only issue there with Taylor.
Are you concerned about the contract situation, how that might impact him, the team? I have no idea how it's going to work out. Is it just sort of like they're just going to tell him go play and that's it and expect him to be great?
I mean, how many times have we seen this over the years? Like these guys, especially running backs, they have contract situations, and then it gets resolved. Like I feel like it'll be fine. I don't have an issue with it. And even if he's traded, like what if he goes to Buffalo and just becomes Buffalo's main running back? Like you're going to be feeling really great about that.
Yeah.
So I don't care right now. Like if this is like the week before the season starts and you're drafting like, I think the start of the season is September 7th. So if it's like September 4th and you're drafting and like Taylor's still that contract situation is still not resolved. Okay. Maybe you can sweat it out a little bit that he's going to hold out completely. But maybe it's like a Le'Veon Bell situation. Right. But right now I don't know, because we've seen this so many times that I just don't really care.
Yeah, that's probably true. And Le'Veon Bell has come out multiple times since then saying he regretted doing that and he felt like it was the wrong decision. I'm wondering if that's going to inform or influence guys.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact that he's like the owner came out against him is not a great situation either. But I do think he'll play. Like I said, the only my main worry is that ankle that is causing him to miss time. I guess that's about it. Monster Dong asking, what round would you draft AJ McCarron? You QBs get all the good looking girls. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I was hoping you did. I don't. It's probably so. There's probably like some cryptic picks again that like I'm missing. I don't know. I think this Wild Sex of the Wall team is. I feel like you have to kind of like look closely. He's probably got some like hidden codes in there. But yeah, any other like parting thoughts? And if not, do you want to plug your website?
Draft good players to score touchdowns. That's my advice.
There you go.
Yeah, if anyone's interested, thecapisfake.com. Let me see. I can't remember what's the most recent stuff. I've got my value picks. The picks that I think are the most valuable in each round. I wrote an article about kind of identifying fantasy value. I got an article up I wrote 2 weeks ago about quarterback coach tandems, how long it takes for them to win the Super Bowl. So, basically if a quarterback tandem and coach don't win a Super Bowl within 5 years or less, they probably never will. The average time, by the way, is 2.6 seasons from the time a quarterback and coach get together to the time that they win a Super Bowl. It's typically 2.6 seasons. So probability is that Sean McDermott and Josh Allen will never win a Super Bowl. Sorry, Buffalo.
So would you fire if you're the Bills? Would you fire McDermott?
That's a great question. I think it's kind of. It doesn't feel justified to fire them, right? Like it feels like you can't. Like feels awkward to do that. Yep. But I think I'd understand it if someone did. So you wouldn't fire both. You'd probably fire McDermott and just try to get a new coach. That's maybe better than McDermott in some ways.
Yeah, I feel like they've had some bad luck though. Like last year, well, first of all, Von Miller goes down with the torn ACL, and then they had the DeMar Hamlin situation that happened, and like the team just got deflated. The year before, they went into overtime against Mahomes in that second round crazy playoff game. It just feels like the Bills just had some bad luck. So I would not fire McDermott. I think he's doing a good job. I think there's a chance they buck that trend. And they could easily win this year. They're one of the favorites. So we'll just have to reevaluate after. Monster Dog saying, would you draft Tank Bigsby and Tank Dell in the late rounds and go to war with your league? Yes. Actually, I think they're fine late round picks. I mean, Tank Bigsby is a rookie running back, and he could be the number 2 in Jacksonville. And then Tank Dell is someone who's had some good rapport with CJ Stroud. It's not the worst. And then, you can go to war with your league. Yes, you have 2 tanks. Anyway, I'm at WalterFootball.com. Tons of content. We're going to have another draft tomorrow. Actually, I'm not sure if we're going to have a draft tomorrow, but we're going to have a draft on Saturday instead with Ben Wasley. He's available only on the weekends. So we're going to do that instead. I'm going to try to get a guest on tomorrow as well. I don't know if I can go solo again. That was kind of a mess yesterday. But I'm glad we made it through without getting kicked out again for the second night in a row. So I consider that a win. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video. Visit the link in the description for the merch store, or go to Amazon and type in how the 2020 MVP was stolen, or a safety and a field goal. Those are my 2 books, and I'm gonna be releasing a 3rd book sometime soon. It's going to be a Jerks of the Week, the college years. I had all these Jerks of the Week entries from my college years that I'm finally putting together in a book. So you can read about all the jerks that I live with on campus and the ones who taught me and all that stuff. I have a ton of content from my college years.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. Make college years are kind of getting resurrected here in your 40s. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's the right time. It's been almost 20 years since I graduated from college. So I actually wanted to release it a lot earlier. And I just couldn't I met with some book agents at the Philadelphia Writers Conference. I went there a few times, and it's just so tedious to make book proposals. I regret not self-publishing earlier. It's maybe a story for another time, because we're at an hour 38 here. But I recommend self-publishing if you're just going to write a book. Real quick, Dylan says that stuff with Diggs is bad juju. Bills can make the playoffs. It could be, yeah, it could be overblown too. I feel like the media overblows stuff, so I think the Bills are going to be fine. I don't really have an issue with that as long as Von Miller is on the field. It's fine with me. So anyway, Kenny, thanks so much for coming on again. It was great drafting with you. We'll have to do this again. I'd say next week, but my wife could be in labor next week, so we'll have to see how that works out.
You better be there for that. Don't be hanging out with me.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey, I have to. I know you're going to be delivering this baby soon, but I have to go do a mock draft with Kenny. So peace out. I'll see you in a couple hours. So I don't think I'll be married for much longer if I do that. So anyway, yeah, thanks again for everyone for watching and commenting. This is great. But yeah, I'll be either back tomorrow or Saturday. So I will talk to you then.
You the man, Walt.